Matter of fact, in high school, when scanners first came out, you know, I was all over that, man.
Scanner,
all over,
drawing.
yeah. You know, when they had the little stupid hand scanner. Remember back in the day, they had
that little strip.
Yes. But yeah, I was all over that, man. I remember being amazed at the fact that, okay, I drew it on here, and now it's on there.
You are now listening to the Artist King Podcast.
This is DTM of DeltaTangoMike.com, and this is the Artist King Podcast, episode number 94, featuring the artist interview with Ron Smith, aka SmithCreativ. Please take the time to download the Artist King Podcast in your favorite platform and listen anytime. We would like to hear your opinions and suggestions, so please direct your comments to dtm@artistking.org. The Artist King Podcast is available on your iPhone and iPad at the App Store, on iTunes, on Spreaker.com, on Stitcher Radio, ArtistKingArchive.com, and you can find all the links on ArtistKing.org. The Artist King Podcast is made possible by the support of our sponsors. You can find them in the partners page at ArtistKing.org, and they include the law offices of Deborah Gonzalez Esquire, VelocityScreenPrint.net, Southside Sickest, Mix Manny Beats, The Biz Garage, and AzaleaCreativGroup.com. Ron Smith, aka SmithCreativ, likes to work in all mediums. All mediums. He's a master at pencils, charcoals, acrylics, oils, 2D illustration, 3D fabrication, sculpture, web development, and app development. SmithCreativ is his brand, and you got to check out his art around town in the nearest group art show, and the Dizzy Gypsy Art Gallery in Lawrenceville. Follow SmithCreativ on social media and check out his website. On Facebook under smith.creative, and on social medias SmithCreativ. No E at the end of creative. Now on to our Artist King Podcast interview with Ron Smith.
Ron Smith. I'm originally from Talladega, Alabama, and moved to South Carolina when I was about 5, and moved here when I was about 13. Been here ever since.
Nice. Atlanta. And what kind of work do you do now? What kind of art?
A lot of different stuff. Sculpture, screen printing, graphic design, web design, oil painting, figurative, mostly figurative stuff.
What does figurative mean?
Having to do with the human body.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And do you remember the day, that time in your life when you first came across art and it inspired you to do something, or somebody put a pencil in your hand, a crayon, a marker?
Something that was a heavy influence on me when I was a kid was a drawing that my grandmother had in her living room. It was from one of the professors at the school she taught at Talladega College when I was a kid. And I forget his name. I think it was Jennings was his name. But it was just a bunch of old 70s faces with afros and braids and the whole nine, just all in a big pile all together, like he just sat in the classroom and just drew the students. Mm-hmm. And I've always thought that was really cool. It was almost a collage type of thing, but it was all pencil, and it was all extremely realistic, you know, with the response to light on skin. And
you notice all those things.
Yeah, I mean, you know, over the years, after seeing it so many times and, you know, wanting to draw, my dad was a sign painter.
Okay.
When I was a kid. So, you know, being around all that, all my cousins could draw, you know, my uncles. Uh-huh. And, you know, they used to draw comic books, Doom, and, you know, all that type of thing.
Okay, so your family is very artistically inclined.
Yeah. I mean, none of them do it for a living, but
right.
Except for my dad. You know, my dad was like I said, a sign painter for a good, I would say about 7 years. When we were in South Carolina, he really did a good bit of hand painted signs, you know, with the one shot
And they let you play. They let you play with their materials. They give you materials to play with at home.
Man. Yeah, my dad had an opaque projector back in the day, and big old monster size thing where you can take a magazine and throw it up there. So we would trace stuff on the wall, and we had a big tiger in the living room. One time he traced my face out on the wall. We painted it, and yeah, it was cool, man. Nice, real cool.
So at school, did you take art classes? Did you jump into art opportunities as a kid?
Oh yeah, totally, man. That was when I was probably second, third grade. I kind of realized that that's what I wanted to do, and then I think my parents realized it because it was like, your son don't do no work. All he does is draw all the time. You got to do something about that.
And so they said that to your parents, and then did the school put you in any art classes?
Just the standard art class that they offer everybody. But being that I already had the desire to draw, the teachers gravitated towards me a little bit, and gave me a little extra push, gave me a little extra tips, that type of thing. Till I was in high school. When I was in high school, man, the Brian Aiken at Lithonia High School, man, he was a tremendous art teacher, big influence. He would bring his stuff from home to teach us because they didn't really, they wouldn't really finance the arts too tough. And he was doing jewelry design at Lenox. At the time, this was in the early 90s, and he would bring his stuff in, let us, make rings, and bring the wax in, bring everything in. We needed to, get some certain stuff done and teach us certain aspects of art that we wouldn't really be exposed to in a straightforward just art class. Screen printing, I was exposed to a lot in those high school years.
Nice. Yeah. Did you enter any competitions, win any awards?
Not well. In elementary school, yeah, I won a few awards. In high school, not so much because I started skateboarding and I didn't really like school, so I kind of didn't go. I think I missed probably like most of 10th grade, and I just skated all day. I thought I was gonna get sponsored and be like super badass, but yeah, everybody I knew was super badass. Yeah. So we would just skip school and skate all day, man, and sneak out and skate at night.
Yeah.
And but I got about halfway through 10th grade and realized like, okay, I'm gonna be doing this forever if I don't, buckle down and try to make something happen. So went back to school and suffered through in-school suspension for like ever. And finally graduated.
Did you while you're finishing high school, did you think that you wanted to be an artist? Did anything that jumped out at you?
Oh yeah.
Did you know what kind of artist? Did you think it through, or what did you think about it?
It wasn't a think through thing. It was like almost a second nature compulsion almost thing. It's like, I never stopped drawing. It got to the point where I realized that I need to start getting into the computer. And it was basically like kind of almost an epiphany of, if I don't learn the aspects of art on the computer, then I'm not going to be able to do this for a living. Because that I saw that was where it was going. Back in say late 90s, like say 96. I had a little computer, and matter of fact, in high school, when scanners first came out, I was all over that, man.
Scanner, all over, drawing.
Yeah. When they had the little stupid hand scanner. Remember back in the day, they had
that little strip.
Yes. But I was all over that, man. I remember being amazed at the fact that okay, I drew it on here, and now it's on there. And that was it from there. From there on out, it was like, yeah, I got to get with this digital thing. And I learned a pretty good bit at Lithonia too, man. They had a technology class where they had a CNC mill there. You know, this was probably about 92. And, you know, learn how to work that. So that, you know, that led to me having the experience to be able to land jobs that, you know, normally coming out of high school a student wouldn't be able to get.
Right. So then when you were graduating out of high school, were you thinking of college? Or are you thinking job? I need to get a job, and I know I have some skills I can put into a job.
I was thinking college, and I went to Art Institute when it was in Buckhead. I went there for probably about 6 months, and I wasn't really getting to the computers like I wanted to. So I ended up leaving there and just buying a computer and buying the books.
Right. And what was your focus? What did you want to do? What was your plan?
Just to do art for a living, period. You know, no matter what kind of art.
Right.
You know.
And were you finding ways to make a living with art?
Oh yeah. I mean, when I first moved out, man, I would just draw up stuff with you know, the old design markers on some little 5x7s and throw them in a mat that I got from a girl over at Upton's and sell it for $10 on the street, man. I paid my rent like that for probably about a year and a half. Yeah.
Selling art on the streets.
Yeah, man. Local artists, man. Get your song, you know. Yeah.
You hit up the underground. Where were you selling?
I lived on Boulevard, so I would just go outside. Pretty much. And
anywhere there was people?
Yeah, man. Yeah. And you know, stopping traffic. You know, I ain't trying to wash your windows, you know. Come get some of this art.
And people would buy it. Yeah. And you were paying your rent.
Yeah, man. Matter of fact, that's when I met Tony.
Okay, Tony Dennis. Yeah.
And saw him out there, you know, because back then it wasn't laptops or nothing like that. It was like, you know, you got your portfolio and that's what you got, you know. So I'm like riding the train, riding the bus, drawing all the time, and happened to be walking down Poplar when he had the shop out there. And he was like, yeah, man, I'll carry your T-shirts. I was like...
Right. You know. So then you started doing shirts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Screen print. I got a little job doing screen printing out in Tucker. And at first I was just doing cleaning screens and that type of thing. And a friend of mine worked there. And he was like, man, you know, he kind of urged me, you need to learn how to use Illustrator. You learn how to use Illustrator, you can do all this stuff yourself. And, you know, I stuck with it and eventually, you know, bought a machine and started cutting my teeth on Illustrator, and, you know, it's been cool ever since. Man. Yeah.
Because, and I wonder why I never came across you in the 90s, because I met Tony and No Names out there in downtown. I was on the train.
5 Points.
Yep, I was on the train all the time. And that's the place to hang out if you're in downtown.
Yes, sir.
And I was walking down the street and I saw the No Name sign. Yeah. That stand-up sidewalk sign. And the ball head with that no. Yeah. I was like, that's hard. Yeah. And so I went looking for the shop, and ever since then I've known him. It's been 20 years, man.
Yeah, 20 years, man.
And it's like, it's always there all the time, hanging out.
Where?
Yes, I was there in this little shop, and little two steps up into this one room. Yeah. And
it was fly, too.
Yeah, it was very cool. I used to hang out with him. And I did his tattoo, a little bitty No Name's tattoo on his arm. And I don't know if you was around, like what happened? How come we didn't cross paths? But that's the 90s, man. Boy. So when did you pick up the computer and start doing Illustrator?
I would say 98 maybe. I was working at a little customer service joint, and me and this guy were doing a comic book. I would draw everything out, and he would write the story, and I would draw everything out, and we were putting it online. Oh, really? And I didn't know anything about the online. All I knew was I can draw. You know? And he was urging me too, like, you know, this is before the screen print thing. He was kind of urging me too, like, yo, you need to scan this stuff and get it in, learn how to do this yourself. Because I was basically drawing it out.
So who is this guy you doing a comic book with?
Tyler Jacobson, I think his name was. And what was the name of it? Captain Spectacular. It was basically it was like before Beavis and Butthead. We were doing this weird, really satirical comic about a superhero with like all these like perverted powers and stuff. It was extra. But anyway, he would write the story out and I would draw it out and he would scan it and put it online. Then he started using Photoshop to color everything in, and he was like, "Man, you need to learn how to do this." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right." And he sold me a power computing clone of a Mac. Back in the day, Mac used to authorize clones, and he sold me that like $150, and gave me a disc, like a zip disc, full of stuff, software and all that. And I just went to town every night. Be up on the computer doing something, and not even really, just more experimenting and trying to figure out what it could do and what I could do with it. And it just kind of blossomed from there, man. I started learning Illustrator. Bought a book, back before the internet was really popping like that. Right. I bought the books. Sat down, learned Illustrator, and had the balls to go and try to get a job somewhere. Went to Easy Package Graphics back in the day, and they gave me a little test. And I know Illustrator, been messing with Illustrator maybe a month. Rolled off in there, and they were like, "Yeah, we got a test for you." And they started asking like, "What is the TIFF file format stand for? What is JPEG? What is JPEG used for? What is a PNG? What is this? What is that?" And this is like 2000, maybe. And I was like, oh. But I had enough. I remembered enough from the books to kind of pick up on what file formats to use where and where they're most popularly used and that type of thing. So I ended up passing it. But the real thing was using that pen tool to trace this thing that they had made into guidelines, like a Mickey Mouse head. And, of course, it's all about, with the Illustrator, it's like efficiency of line, that type of thing. You don't want a whole bunch of points all over the place. So, so I did good enough to get in there, so it was on from there on out, From that point forward, it's like, yes, nose Illustrator on the resume.
Nice. And that was it. So you were in the business now. Now you're just working as an artist, as a designer somewhere. Yeah. And
we used to do like corrugated boxes. It was flexographic printing. So, it was back then it was dark room. It was chemicals. The whole 9 yards. It wasn't none of this eco-friendly printed out on a inkjet printer type of stuff. It was like the real deal. So
chemicals that'll kill you.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Man, one day, this cat, we had like a night shift because we was doing stuff for like the UN, doing stuff for like Kroger, all their corrugated boxes, different companies around the country. So they had a second shift. They had a night shift. And I think they eventually had a third shift, if I remember right. But anyway, I had been working second shift for probably about a year. Then I went to first shift. And one of the guys that stayed working second shift was responsible for changing out the chemicals at one time. Everybody had their turn. This dude, and I'm talking like 5-gallon vats of fixer and developer and stuff like that. You mix it up, that's cyanide.
Oh shit.
So we come to work the next morning, dude done mixed it up. Everybody's like, "Oh, hazmat." Like
shit.
Yeah, man. That was an experience. But that's the difference between the old school and the new school stuff with as far as art, It used to take a lot more to make something come to fruition, Yeah. Nowadays it's a little more instant.
So this time, so you're a working artist, and doing your thing. Are you still working on your own personal projects? Are you still drawing for yourself and coming up with new ideas?
Actually, I would be coming home and just learning new software. Cinema 4D. Messed around with Bryce back in the day.
Yeah, I remember that.
Man, and it got to the point with Bryce, man, I got nasty with Bryce because they had the module where you could basically define your mountain. And that was back in the day when you could use a picked file, which is basically black and white. It's like threshold in Photoshop. So the elevation was determined by the blackest black and the whitest white is the highest height. So you would basically be able to make 3D models using that as opposed to using their stock stuff that they already had. So I started messing around with that, and that got me into 3D. And then what was the software I used to use? Strata back in the day, and ZBrush. Matter of fact, ZBrush was really cool back then. And I haven't used ZBrush in years, but the 3D software really propelled me to keep going, because I saw the things that you can do with it. You get an alpha channel, then boom, you got green screen.
Right.
So
what happened to the comic book, the web comic?
We eventually stopped doing it. The guy moved to Denver, and
does it still live online?
I don't know.
Never not looked it up.
Man, that was in the AOL disc days. That was like, you have mail. Yeah, it was back then. So if it's still online, that's like grace of God. Dude.
That means it got put away in the archives with WebRing.
Yeah, it was like Netscape. Yeah.
So you're working and you're doing your own. You're learning on your own. What is it that you've worked on your own, and in terms of art, the medium, and what is your goal? What have you been trying to do with it?
I primarily want to paint, and just paint anything. Set up still lifes and paint, set up models, figures and paint, and that's all I really ever wanted to do, but I had to learn the computer aspect to make a living, and basically just to be able to tell not just my story but other people's stories through the art.
So it's a tool, to make money, and then have time for your personal art. And your personal art, you just want to paint, no matter what.
Well, a lot of my stuff does end up being kind of political, that type of thing. Because I got stuff at the house I don't even bring out the house. Because I don't want to start a fire.
But you paint it, why? Because it gets something out of your system?
Yeah, that, and, that's what I like to do. It's enjoyable for me, it's relaxing, and I paint and draw every day.
And recently I seen you do a lot of murals. You did something, do it on windows and businesses and stuff. How's that started? How'd you get those gigs?
This past summer, a friend of mine works at the restaurant I did the window mural at, Friends, in Swanee. And she called me up on Facebook, or basically messaged me on Facebook, and said that the owner asked for somebody to do some artwork in a store that they have in Canton on the ceiling. And
on the ceiling?
Yeah. And I was like, bring it. And she told me what the budget was. I was like, nice. I'll be there. But it was, when I got there, it was a lot bigger than I expected and a lot more daunting, because it was like on a tin roof, slanted, and like 15 feet up in the air. So I originally brought a projector out there, and you know, tried to do a couple things, and then the computer started acting up, so I was like, you know, bump that, and just got up there and started doing my thing.
So did you have like scaffolding?
Yeah, well, 2 ladders, 2 step ladders with a board between them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was thugging. It was thugging. Oh yeah, I feared for my life a couple times, but yeah, it got done, man. It turned out looking real nice, and they, you know, and they were pleased. So, you know, that's all I was kind of worried about.
When I did artist talk early this year in Snellville, and you came out and you brought all those drawings, charcoal. Is it charcoal or pastel drawings? Yeah. What's the deal with that? What are you working on towards that? What is that for? Is there a goal here?
I mean, that's just almost a sketchbook. It's not the size of a sketchbook, but I kind of, you know, it's just on newsprint paper. I'll take a newsprint pad, you know, when I wake up in the morning, whip something out right fast just to get the day going to get warmed up, you know. And because eventually that's what I want to do when I roll out of bed. I don't want to have to jump in the car and sit in the traffic and go work for somebody else when I can just get up and do my thing at the house. You know?
But you still have a regular job.
Yeah.
You just want to start off your day with what you like.
Oh yeah.
That's good. That's a good look on
it's
life,
a good
man.
warm up. It's a good warm up for, you know, work that I got to do anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, get my hand ready.
Huh.
You know.
I might have to start doing that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And, you know, half the time it's not like, you know, I'm just sitting there with a reference or something like that. Like a lot of the pastel stuff is just messing around, you know, put a couple shapes down, see what it's looking like, and take it from there.
What kind of stuff do you like to paint or draw the most? Do you have a particular thing? You said you mentioned figurative.
Yeah,
what do you like about that?
It's really cool, man. I like to be able to capture the different effects of light on the body. I always thought it was pretty cool. And then when you really think about it, most of the you know, old master painters and stuff like that, that was their primary thing was, you know, you're not painting the thing, you're painting the effects of light on the thing. You know, and that's like my primary goal is just to be able to put an image from the 3-dimensional world onto 2D, but still have that 3-dimensional feel, have an atmosphere to it.
Nice. I noticed you've been painting, or was it a painting that you started with the astronaut in it?
Yeah. Man, that thing was kind of experimental too, because I work at a sign shop, like a pretty big sign shop, and you know, I'll take some of their scraps and, you know, mess around with some sign foam, stuff like that. So that board is actually dry erase board, and it did not want to take no paint. I specifically used it to try to see what it would take for something to permanently stay on there, and it took a lot. It took a lot. Yeah, I mean, layers of gesso and you know, clear coats, all that, and it was still like I can still if I push hard enough, I can rub it off.
That's a slide on. And what about that girl with the boom boxes? Was that a painting? What is
that was a painting. That was just kind of a little practice run in a sketchbook. It's canvas on a canvas pad.
Oh, okay.
And I had a model send me some images, and they just been sitting around so long. I was like, okay, yeah, let me go in and, you know, use some of this reference stuff that I got sitting around. And I just added the radios on there.
Okay, that came out pretty good, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I like it. So if we want to find your stuff online, where do we go?
You can go to SmithCreativ.com. Creativ. There's no E on the end of creative. You can go to SmithCreativ.com/Smith app, and that's like a bunch of photos and artwork that I've done. You can go to my Instagram page. I'm real active on Instagram, and that's @SmithCreativ.
Okay. And if you have some piece of advice for a young and up-and-coming artist like yourself, back in high school, after high school, and trying to find your way in the art world,
Don't stop. Just keep doing it. If that's what you want to do, keep doing it. Period. And don't wait for somebody to recognize you. You go out and get your own.
This has been your Artist King podcast, and I am DTM of DeltaTangoMike.com, telling you to get out and learn so you can earn. Let go of the starving artist title and move into the thriving artist art life.